And we're live. Welcome back to the Madcore Hunter podcast. Danny, you got the intro. Mike fell off. What's up, man?
Hey man, doing good.
I
Just back up here in North Dakota.
yes,
Just getting back into the work groove.
yeah, I see there. We went to TAC yesterday and today, and man, it was hot. The Indiana Kentucky TAC. It was hot, man. We signed up for 2 today, and we actually decided against it. Not so much the heat, but it gets so congested. Like, to put things in perspective, we shot Rocky Mountain elk this morning at 8 o'clock, and there's only 15 targets, and it's not that much walking. Like, I had my watch on, and it's accurate, and it was less than 3 miles, or right at 3 miles maybe. And it took us close to 4 hours just to do that. Like, that's 15 targets in 4 hours is not much shooting. It's a lot of
And
waiting.
yeah, that's quite a bit of time there. Where's that TAC event at?
It's called the Farm. It's like a sporting club. It's really New Albany, Indiana, and that's
Oh, okay.
kind of my old stomping grounds. But it's not bad, you know.
Hey, was I saw you posted a picture of an elk target there, and I just happened to have seen that elk target posted earlier today. It looked like the THP crew was there.
Really,
Did you see those guys?
I did not run into them. I talked to Dudley for a little bit. I talked to Evan Williams over at Hoyt. Asked him why Hoyt quit doing their podcast, and he's like, I don't. He just, they kind of decided, not a lot of interest in it from everybody. I don't know. I asked him, hey, if you want to come on one, if you still do them, if I reached out to you, would you want to? And he said, absolutely, because he hunts the same area that we hunt in Utah. And in a sense, we kind of put him on elk, and he killed um, this past year. So we caught up with him for a good long time, and he knows that, we're not fakers or anything. So I think he would
That's
actually
pretty cool.
probably join the podcast. I talked to a couple other guys, just vendors. Like, there was this local clothing company called C Deer, like CE and then DEER. And their camo pattern isn't bad. And I think Dad bought some bibs from them, but they're veteran owned. Really like what they stood for. And I think they would be pretty good to be on the podcast. The big whitetail hunters, kind of the middle part of Kentucky. So I really enjoy the vendors. I shot around a little bit and just seeing everybody. And it's a good time. It was hot and a lot of waiting, too much waiting for me.
How big of groups do they allow people to shoot in there?
Up to 6.
Yeah. I haven't been in so many years shooting 3D, but I know that was always rough when they'd start allowing like larger than about a 4-man group. Just time
There's,
consuming.
and I'm all for it, but there was a lot of families with kids. And I think that can slow things up. Like this last course, I mean, heck, they had a kind of like an all-terrain stroller out there. There was a group yesterday, and this was pretty steep country that she had like those backpack, and this woman was carrying, like, I'd say this girl was like 3 years old, and she was
Really?
carrying her through, and it was hot, but they were both shooting and they were shooting good. So I admire that. So, I don't want to be a complainer, but man, it took so long to shoot that many targets. It's not very many targets. So I heard a lot of other people complaining because, like, we just went to Pennsylvania and we didn't have that. Like, you may come up on a target and, like, hey, there's a group there, similar to golf, but it's like you would, we were backed up. Um, Shoot, at one time, I think I counted 14 people in front of
Curious.
us, like, just waiting. So, like, it, kind of just had stagger, but it was a good time. Rocky Mountain elk's fun because every target is an elk, and like they'll spread in
Oh
like
yeah.
those mini elks every now and then. So you get 15, probably 5 little elk and 10, full size, and they'll be laying down this and that. And I think the farthest shot was 101. Shout out to Dad. I think he 11'd the 101 shot, and I think I 10 or 8. He outshot me there, so shout out to him. But
Right on.
also he's got an arrow floating in the water, and I don't. So I'll just say that.
Not
But
here to
no,
defend himself.
it's a is a good time. It's always good to get together. We saw some guys we knew, just some local guys, but I don't know, a lot of waiting, and it's so freaking hot, man. I'll be surprised if I have a bunch of chiggers. Like the area they had this, it was pretty a lot of weeds, and it's basically river bottom. So I'm like, gosh, I hope I don't wake up in the morning with chiggers all over me.
Dude, I'm going to start anytime I'm back east from now on is going to be long sleeves and wear gaiters because I got tore up when I was in Illinois.
It can get worse than poison ivy, man, because they can get in areas that aren't usually exposed.
Yeah, I definitely got the chiggers. It wasn't as bad as I had it a couple years ago, but it was still pretty rough.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we've been up to. I don't know. Made some connections. It's our people. If somebody's crazy enough to go hike through Indiana Hills 90 degrees and shoot foam, then they're my kind of people usually. So
It's like completely opposite up here. The highs today, I don't know if it got out of the 60s and been raining all day.
gosh, yeah, if that was the case, I might have shot another one. But another thing, just the time, dude. Like I wouldn't have got back till late, and we wanted to record. Want to spend a little time with the family. I shot Knock On last night. Knock On was a good course. It challenges you with some elevation. This is more distance. I think the farthest shot on Knock On was 96. And then with Rocky Mountain Elk, I think it was 101. Prime has like a 130 some yard shot, but I shot it last year and I was kind of seeing that a lot of the courses were set up pretty close. So I'm like, if we don't shoot Prime, it's not the end of the world. So didn't get to shoot Prime, but that's all right.
Gotcha. What
So,
else been going on?
let's see. Cameras. We got Pythons for all of our new cell cams. Actually, the person calling me, I'd left a message, was somebody over in Kentucky. I want to go scout. I was going to maybe scout this evening since we got back a little early. So, trying to get in that mode of in between. Hey, I need to get cameras out for whitetail, but also we have a lot of preparation for out west, and we're getting ready to plan our fall food plot either next weekend or the following. So doing that, a lot of training. I got a pretty big race coming up. I'm gonna save the details. Maybe do a little cover that in another podcast. Um, but man, just like we talked about the lifestyle, there's always something to be preparing. I was talking to you yesterday, and when can you start running trail cams up in North Dakota?
Man, it's I don't know why they do it, I guess. It's annoying to me because I don't like putting cameras out so late. It's August 20th here. Like it's just a specific date. It's not like you get put it out until Saturday or something. This falls during the middle of the week. I think it's on a Wednesday this year and happens to be the day that I'm going home. So it's just going to be difficult. I might be able to get one or two out that day. Um, but it's hard to run cameras. I've done it up here before and it was pretty cool, but like I probably won't be back till the day before season and I really don't want to jump out and get in those areas. It just makes it hard because I really don't want to go set a stand and cameras out a day or two before I hunt the spot, you know?
Yeah, that's not ideal.
So, but it's really, it's usually really warm and the mosquitoes are bad where we hunt along the river system. Um, it's, it just makes it a little difficult, but we're going to get out and start scouting and get a pretty good idea. We went last night and sat on a couple fields and, actually seen a couple bucks. Didn't see it. We saw some deer. Um, the area's changed so much because when I first started hunting, there was just deer everywhere, and a lot of nice bucks in the area, and had some really good luck for like 3 or 4 years in a row. And North Dakota went through EHD, and in the area that I'm hunting, it killed 85 to 90% of the whitetail herd that was here. So numbers are climbing back, but man, it's slow. That's been, I think, 5 years now. I think it was in 2020 that occurred, and it didn't bounce. You think it's going to bounce back a little faster, but it's been slow, and everything's changed down there. Different crops in the fields, and it really has moved the deer from where I was hunting. It's not as active as it was in the spot, one particular spot, but there's still a lot of deer around and coming back.
You killed some studs, man. It was a shame when that EHD hit because your biggest deer, I mean, you hunt Illinois and your biggest deer is North Dakota. So
Yeah, man, I actually killed 3 deer in a row from the same tree.
mm,
And so I was really bummed when EHD hit because it really made me I haven't killed a deer. I haven't killed a deer down. I killed 3 deer out of the same tree 3 years straight, and then I haven't shot a deer since. And that was probably 2020, or trying to think of what year. Last year I shot it was the year EHD hit. It was either 2020 or 2021, and I haven't shot a deer in the same spot since then. I've hunted it a few times, but it's just not been near as good. So I actually hunt a couple hours from there now.
yeah. Weren't you were in Illinois, what, like a week ago? You and Obendorf were food plotting, getting prepared, setting stands.
Yeah, that the the first weekend of August, I flew in and flew down to St. Louis and got picked up and spent 3 days putting in some pretty good labor there on a couple of the farms that Michael's got. We mostly tree stand work, cut a few trails, trying to change up a little bit of access that we have. Just making it. It's one of the farms are really hard to. It's hard to get in and out because it's a big ridge system. So it's straight up on one side, and we thought that was the better entry, but kind of find out over the last few years is I think we were pushing a lot of deer out. We saw all the deer and hunted on the opposite side of this ridge system, but I think there was a lot more deer bedding than we originally thought on that end of the hill. So we've kind of changed that up now and going to access it from a different point and kind of go back to what we originally did. Because honestly, the first year or two we started hunting that, we saw more deer. I mean, we've killed up there and had some luck, but it was just like we weren't seeing the deer numbers that we were the first year or so. But Illinois also, that area kind of got hit with the HD right after he bought the place. So deer numbers have been up and down there for sure. I don't think it killed a ton of deer, but I think a lot of big deer got killed around the 3 or 4 years ago there. And there's a big outfitter in that area that hunts a bunch of the farm around us, and they kill a few deer that we see and kill close to us right on. A lot of times they got to call us to come retrieve a deer. So
Uh,
kind of, working around. It ain't too bad. We don't have too bad a relationship with them, but it is frustrating when you got a picture of a deer and then they send you a picture of that deer dead. So makes it a little tough, but we're trying to have the better food plots and, try to get the deer to stay on us longer.
yeah, neighbors are the ultimate killer. Seems like sometimes.
Yeah, it seems
But
like every time I'm out there, we end up talking to him. Like I think I shot a buck one night and thought we were going to have to get a hold of him because he died real close to the property line. And it was just kind of funny. It's like a day or two later, the guy hits us up and they're tracking a deer that's ran across basically right same area that I'd shot that buck out of the day before. They end up getting that deer, but I don't think it was a great shot and had traveled across a few properties before they found it,
yeah,
But there's a lot of deer. One of the reasons that we really like that place, I mean, it can be hard to hunt, but man, during the rut, it's a river system in the area, and there's always some giant bucks that come through that we will have one picture of all year round. So it's just a real heavy travel corridor for big bucks and the rut. So you just never know what's going to show up in that area.
Yeah, Rob's got a couple areas that he's looking at that have that type of channel system. You know, he'll send me the Onyx and say, "Hey, what do you think?" And there was this last one. I was like, "Man, that looks like a big one could show up at any time." Just the topography and everything. Just like a creek system and such. So I don't know. I've basically I'll just say where I'm at in Indiana, and this like we have ridge runner deer. Like we had last year, which I killed a good one, but we had another one. I would say just throwing out 170, give or take. And
Yeah.
I had a picture of the deer, and I had my cousin actually hunting a road over in a whole other area, and he had the same deer. You know what I mean? They're ridge runners, so it's very challenging. It's just like how I killed my larger one. Like you just have to find a good area, run some cams, and just try to see where they're at and what they're doing. But I mean, some people love the rut, some don't. I've had success either way. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I don't. But for these ridge runner deer, I call them, it can help because the wind also is a challenge, and not a lot of people know how to play the wind, but you've seen them use like milkweed and such because with these ridges and how they come together, you may think the wind is fine, but as soon as it comes around the corner, it might switch up on you. So
I mean, it's it's whitetail hunting in Illinois is a little bit like elk hunting. We got to deal with some thermals, but they're different. They don't seem to respond like they do out west. It's pretty much every day out west you're gonna get those updrafts and your downdrafts at the normal times during the day. And what I've seen in Illinois is like kind of depends on temperature.
yeah,
It's gonna affect. We're gonna get really have an updraft during the day, especially if it's warm. But it seems like and I may be saying that wrong, but I think maybe it was on the hot days that it wasn't such an updraft. It was the cold days that we had a good solid updraft, and it would kind of stay that way most of the day until evening hours. But it seemed like the hotter days you'd get a lot of fluctuation. And what we learned is that we had to basically is we got a plot up on top. It don't take real well. It's because you got it open to put the plot there, but it's right on the stem of the ridge. So it gets heavy sunlight, and we've dealt with some draft years. We've had a couple good plots up there, but we're hoping this year we got a lot of moisture where we got a layer of thatch laid on the ground there, from the stuff that we cut. And it seemed pretty moist, and they've been getting rain. So hopefully this year we end up with a good plot. We're pretty excited. There's one tree up there. It's a giant oak, got a bunch of limbs coming out of it down low. And it's one of those spots where I've sat and stand multiple times and just look. Every time I look across that tree, seems like there's a buck standing under there staring across. Because the other thing, being on a ridge, is like we had a stand in a hickory tree, which not the best tree, but it was a tree that worked in that area. But I mean, you're over 20 foot high in this stand, and when the deer's on top of the ridge, he's eye level with you.
yeah,
So
that's the
yeah,
issue.
we struggle with that and it's right off the edge of this plot. But we were able to get a ladder stand into this oak and hide it because of all these limbs. And I think it's going to be a very money stand. And I did, I know some people do this, but I went and blocked a couple trails off, like where they couldn't come. I wanted them to go where I wanted to. So the limbs that I cut out, I placed strategically to make them walk 5 foot farther to go around a different tree
Hmm.
so that I'm stay hidden. And this is something I do a lot. And I went in, and what I'll do is I'll go down their trail and I'll clear cut their trail. So it just makes it easier for them to go that way.
Yeah,
And I do that a lot if, a tree's too close to a trail, but it's a tree that's going to work for a tree stand. I'll go in and cut and move logs and limbs and try to make it where it's like, the deer's like, well, dang it, I'm gonna walk around it. They're gonna take the path of least resistance most of the time.
hmm,
I'm not talking changing major, but you just see it. I mean, we got one particular tree that fell, and it funneled all the deer to one trail downhill, and you can tell the difference. It's just dirt. I mean, they tore up that trail because there used to be two or three others they'd take, but it's a 3 or 4 foot around tree, and they don't want to jump it.
no, yeah.
So
our area is
It's
thick, and
interesting how you can funnel
I've
them.
done, yeah, our area is real thick, and we've got the honeysuckle, and I've done the same thing. Is cut multiple trails, and then they'll use them or at least cross them to give you that shooting lane. But
Yeah.
a lot of guys do that. Um, hmm. Is
Yeah,
that the only property? Sorry, is that did you? I thought he had two.
he's got one in his house. Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't do a whole lot there, because at the house he can jump out and work on that in the evenings. It's a little easier for him to do stuff there. I think we cut up some trees that had fell around that area, and then just dealing with how he wants to do his plots and everything. We end up mowing a couple plots that a lot of food and stuff in it, but we got to get him ready for what he wants in the fall. So they did a little bit of mowing there, but mostly we worked on tree stands on the other farm. We had a real old like double ladder stand that don't use very much. The seats don't fold up. It's like one of those stands that'd be great for crossbow or gun, but the seats don't fold up, so you can't get against a tree. So like you'd basically have to shoot setting down most likely on that spot. And we've been wanting to change it for years, but we finally pulled that stand, put it in a different location, and set a couple new stands and just worked on some old ones. And I finally set a tree stand on one of the plots in the bottom there that I've wanted to set for a while, but it took everything out of me. It was some major cutting because this stuff has got a lot of invasive species, vines, and stuff that have grown up in these bottoms. And like I cut this whole thing out and it wouldn't fall because of the vines holding it up. So it took a couple hours to get that out, and that's how I ended up getting poison ivy all over me because there was poison ivy growing up the tree that we got in. I think it was a white oak, and we pulled that vine system down. I had gloves on, but the only thing I can figure is that when I took my gloves off later that night, I must have rubbed them against my arm somehow, or it was on my shirt because I was trying to be cautious about it. But man, I got it all over my left forearm. So been dealing with that, and I don't know how I get chiggers. I had long pants and flew in my cowboy boots there and long socks and everything. I didn't get them terrible, but I mean 20, 30 bites on each leg probably all the way up to where your underwear line is. But that's one thing is you don't want to wear boxers when you're working in those areas. You got chiggers. You want something tight.
If they
you
want
know.
to get you, they'll get you. And when it comes to poison ivy, I ran into some. It was kind of the winter, so I cut the vine. We had a tree fall in the yard, so I cut the vine. You know how you kind of carry wood, and that
Yeah.
vine was laying right on my, that tender part of your arm, like the inside, and I got it real bad. Actually, it was waking me up in the middle of the night, and usually I don't get. I don't know. I think it might have been poison sumac. Actually, there's a difference. And
Yeah.
I had to call him, like, just give me some cream, give me, prescription, whatever. Cause like I was waking up every night, like it was miserable. And there wasn't any like get it open and put bleach on. Like this was deep. Like it was like there's still a small scar, like I think it'll
Really.
fade, but it's nasty
So,
stuff, man. Just,
I
I
don't know
guess
if you can
everybody,
see all that.
the videos blur
Like
right now,
it's
but I'm
all
sure,
over my arm, man.
dude,
But
I hate that stuff.
no, I went and got when I got home, which was funny, is I'd never seen it before. My wife knew that I fought getting chiggers when I'd go back to Illinois, and she'd actually bought me a bottle of this stuff called Chigger X, and it worked pretty good on the chiggers, keep you from itching it.
Yeah.
It was just like a cream you could put on there, but I bought a couple other. I got a spray that worked pretty good on poison ivy, and then the pink. Oh, I forget what the name of
Calamine
that one.
lotion, calamine
Yeah,
lotion.
yeah, yeah. That works pretty good. It's a little messy, but
It's messy.
yeah, it was a good trip. But man, like I flew my bow there, thinking we'd get to, have him go through it, in which we spent a little bit of time. But man, we were humped up with everything we were doing and not getting back till 11 o'clock midnight. The one farm's a long drive, so 3 hours a day at least of driving on top of the work we did. So it just and it goes by so fast. We had a good time and everything, and he did get my bow tuned up to where I got some bolt holes through paper and stuff, and it was it's fun to watch him. I got to film it sometime because he's extremely well at it, but it can't be a minute off. It's going to be perfect when he's
Yeah.
done. He's very good at it, and even some of the things he did while he was trying to correct the timing, and most of that's done in the cable and everything. And I had it, you know, I hadn't completely paper tuned it because I was waiting to get some shots through the bow to make sure nothing had stretched, but I'd got it kind of close. And like on a Matthews, it's got the timing windows where you want the cable lined up in those windows on the can that you can see. And I'm like just barely touching the right side of it. It's close. And I mean, we spent a whole bunch more time getting it perfect. And I mean, it was to the point that I shot 2 times with a bear shaft, at the 6 feet, and got a bullet hole with a bear shaft. So I mean, it
It's
was
good.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. There's
So
human
I'm
error
hoping to
always to
get all that
factor in.
buttoned up. Hoping to get all that buttoned up this week and uh, start shooting a ton. I mean, it's happening quick. I mean, if I get in a bind or anything, of course I've got my other bow,
Yeah.
still all set up and everything. But I think I got all my arrows done. I got all that fletched while I was home, and I got half of those with the tack vanes on them, and half of them with the Air Razor 26. Because I think I told you guys I messed up and put the wrong inserts in. So basically, the weights within 5 grains between those fletchings ended up causing a little bit of a weight difference.
Mhm.
But I basically I was 25 grains off on about half my arrows with the brass insert because I put 75s in some and 50s in the others. So what I did was I bought 100 grain field points for the heavier areas and put my normal 125s in
Yeah.
on the lighter ones. But the only thing that ended up being different at all was the fletching, and it's 4 or 5 grains, I think, is what the arrows came out. And I
Yeah.
ended up at 501 and 506, I think, is
Pretty
where I
good,
ended up.
man. I think I'm at 490.
The bow's gonna be fast because that's the bows I'm shooting 5 pounds, 5 pounds heavier than last year. It's right at 75 pounds, and shooting. Those are an inch shorter arrow, and I'm at least 60 grains lighter. So I'm gonna be probably awful close to 290.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it definitely is the fastest bow I've shot in a long time, or probably at all. Just from what I've seen, I haven't shot it through the chronograph yet.
Yeah. I'm I talked to AAE. They were at the booth for TAC. They're liking, believe it or not, a 5 Fletch arrow. If Obendorf listens, I'd like to get his take on it. But they do smaller, and the way that it planes, and I've heard Aaron Schneider, some other guys talk about it, and I kind of want to try it. So I put on order. It's an attachment to go on your Bitzenberger. I just want to try it and see, and just compare it to my 3 Fletch and see how it
Yeah.
goes. I don't know. Have you heard of that yet? Doing like a smaller
I
flight?
saw Snyder post about it the other day, I think, and then I seen somebody making fun of it that had like 9 or 10 fletchings on an arrow or something like that.
I don't know. It's awful convenient. Like I told them, like, yeah, a vein company wants you to put 2 more veins on. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
don't know.
I'm sure it can, possibly help, but a lot of that stuff is so minute that the majority, 90% of the people will never see the effects of what they do on that fletching like that.
Yeah. Oh
Like
yeah.
you've got to be a hell of a shot to tell the difference between a 3 fletch and a 5 fletch. I
Yeah.
would think. I could be completely wrong, but that's just kind of my opinion.
I haven't had any issues with my 3 Fletch. I mean, there's a little wind. I mean, I shoot distance pretty often. The air razors have some memory is the only thing. But they kind of fix that a little bit, they said, which I need to, I've shot through targets and, you'll miss every now and then and hit some grass. So a lot of my fletchings I need to replace anyway. So I'll, uh, I'll get the new ones and see if they're any better.
Yeah, I think something got messed up with my order when I ordered my wraps, and I only got one set of them, and I just figured that out actually when I done my arrows. So it's been a while, but I gotta get a hold of that company and just tell them that I only got one set of wraps. I didn't know it because they send extras, so I thought that I was short. But I found this out through talking to Obendorf because he got wraps from the same people. But I really like. That's the first time I've used them. I really like it. And the other thing when I was at Michael's house, I didn't know is he had got the wrap pad that you can get
Yeah.
for putting and he'd got one made, and I didn't know it. He'd got one made for me. It's got the mossy, or I think it's the mossy oak bottomland, but it's got the orange in it. I always put orange on everything, and it's got the Madcore emblem on the pad.
Oh
So
yeah,
that was
right
pretty
on
cool.
there. Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah.
I always use a mouse pad or something, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
works good,
Yeah.
man.
It was just kind of funny because I told him, I was like, I kept looking on their website because I knew he'd got a pad made. He'd sent me a picture of his, and I was trying to figure out how to get one made because I was like, yeah, I'll get one of those. Never did figure it out, and just kind of gave up on it, and then show up and he's got one for me. So that was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, right on. What else is going on, man? Is that kind of what's coming up? What's new? I guess.
It's just this trip here is going to be, besides work, is going to start. I'm gonna try to get. I think gonna try to get to the gym and start hitting the stair climber for one thing. That's one of my favorite ones to do. Just I think it's one of the closest things to actual climbing the mountain, man. Um, Seems like a good 30 minutes or so on that can really help me get going, and I'll be hitting the mountain when I'm home. I'm only gonna be home for a week because deer comes in here August 29th, and I'm actually gonna go home for a week and head back up here and get about 5 or 6 days in with my dad and Tony,
Yeah.
whitetail hunting. And I really like. I'd never hunted early for whitetail anywhere before until I started working up here, and hunting deer in the velvet can be very fun because they're really you're able to pattern those deer very well compared to the rest of the time of the season, it seems like. But you only got about a week or two period there. Once that velvet comes off, the game changes, man.
Yeah.
They're gonna start breaking up from the bachelor groups, and they're going to move areas most likely. They become very independent after that velvet gets off.
I try to get out. I usually only have one weekend before out west, but my mind's so on that. And the places I have in Kentucky they're not early season friendly, but I believe I just picked up a spot that is, and it's close to ag. So I may go actually scout it after we get off of here, and I'll have something to report. But you may see me slip out the weekend before we head to Utah, and I would love a velvet buck, man. I think everybody would like a true. It's just you have to be, your state has to offer it, and I've never had that opportunity till here recently.
Yeah, I'm still chasing that. My big deer that I killed here in North Dakota. I had him under the tree the very first day of season at 6-7 yards, but it was too late. Um, he came in about 5 minutes after legal light, and I had to actually get a hold of, like, I text my dad and was like, hey, you need to climb down, because he was within about 100 yards of me. Because I'd sat there for a half hour and this deer was not moving. It was just like I could see it looking through my binos at him standing underneath me. I could see and could tell that he had 6 on one side, and knew that he was the buck that I was after. He was in full velvet. I killed him like 3 days later, and he was about half out,
Yeah.
you know. But the very first time I hunted that area, I, I I've got this hunt on film. Need to get it on YouTube. But I went in and sat on the ground, and within like 20 minutes, there's this 8-point. It's in full velvet, nothing big, like 110, 115. But I'm like, I'm going to shoot this deer, because it's the first time I'd had an opportunity at anything in velvet. And he wasn't, hadn't messed his horns up at all or anything. And I was like sitting there getting ready to think about shooting this deer, and I got the camera rolling and filming him. And then out walked the buck, and there's like 5 or 6 points on one side. there was a big buck with him. That's the one that I've got partial video put together of that, but that's the buck I hit on opening day that year and didn't get him. Spent a bunch of time looking for him, and I think I mentioned this on a podcast before, but uh, long story short, didn't find him. I shot a deer like 10 days later that I thought was him right at last light, and it wasn't. It was another 5x4 that just a big 9 point, and it wasn't the same deer that I'd hit. Well, next year, a few days before season, I'd set out camera there on August 20th, and I get a picture, and the first buck I got a picture of, it's the buck I hit the year before. This is all public ground, and I end up killing the buck that I'd hit that first year on opening day the next year. On I had the video rolling, didn't get the actual shot. Killed him at like 40 yards that night. He was with the group of bucks. All the bucks walked out to where I had the camera pointed, and the big one like deterred away from that tree. Just I don't know what made him go that direction, but he did. But I had to really swing around and get a shot and put him down. So pretty cool story, especially on public ground. You just don't get many opportunities to be on the same animal
No,
multiple
no.
years.
I want to do a podcast with all you guys up there and what you're seeing, because that's one of the earliest deer seasons in the country. So that's get some stuff out there, get some videos. I'm actually going to try to video deer hunts a little bit better this year, and then even elk hunt. I'm going to take the GoPro and this and that and see if I can at least capture a little bit. I mean, it's not going to be Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation quality, but
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
like I've said, and I think you guys were talking about it a little bit. I mean, just even filming that recovery, just
yeah,
for your memories, man. Like I know I don't have anything out there on YouTube, and I mean I have a desire to eventually do that, but I've been filming for a long time, and it's fun anytime I get a moment to look back at that stuff. And
oh
to
yeah,
be honest, I've gotten pretty good at the self filming thing. I don't get to film. I film if I have an opportunity to film somebody, but it seems like a lot of times when I'm killing animals, I'm by myself. Or elk's hard to film, but whitetail the last 3 or 4 years, I've killed multiple bucks. Self filming, getting them on my actual camera and tree arm and all that stuff. And then I've also started using the tac cam on the bow.
yeah,
And I mean that footage is not like quality, but it can be kind of cool to have some of it.
yeah.
It's
I've
just
got a couple. They've got the
hard to
phone holders too now for your bow.
yeah. Yeah, I
You're
watched a video today that was by, I think it was Born and Raised. Just started watching some elk hunting, while I was having breakfast this morning, and they had a whole video on there that was shot with the iPhone. You
yeah,
know, one of the guys that they were associated with, his dad had killed a big deer or a big elk in, I think it must have been Oregon or Utah last year, that they had just put this one out on their YouTube page. They're a good follow, man. I think you guys watch some of their stuff.
oh yeah. I like Born and Raised. I think they're still with XO and First Light, but yeah, they're a good group. They do some good videos, and they started out just blue collar, good old boys, from my understanding.
They're still kind of that way. They hunt public ground, and they
Yeah,
shoot the elk that comes in. They don't wait a whole lot unless they got a premier tag or something. But they're highly successful, and they're fun to watch. They do. I've always liked them because they hunt like we do, and they're
hmm
hunting from camps at the truck and stuff like that. And just going in and out every day. But they're a pretty good watch for elk hunting for sure.
absolutely, man. Well, I say I did want to mention this. I think I brought up I was at Sierra store, and it's just kind of this outdoor store that has some deals, and I found a brand new pair of Solomon boots, and you had bragged them up, and Dad's been really bragging them up. I found it for like 89 bucks brand new. They're like a $250 boot or something like
What
that.
were
So I'm like,
they?
well, at this point, I'm just gonna try them. They're the good ones. They're the Solomon. What are they? Phase 4 or
Are
something
the
4.
Ultras or the Quest?
The Quest 4s.
I've
So
got right now. I've got like those Quests pulled up, and they're 269, I think, for the tall ones. Two
yeah, that's
forty
what
nine for the medium. Which ones you get? The tall ones?
I'd say they're taller. They're more than
They're
a
probably
6
8 inch.
inch. Yeah, they're 8 inch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you had them on?
I wore them all weekend. So I wore them
Did you like
prior
them?
weekend. I wore them yesterday and today. And for how hot it was, my feet did not sweat that much. So I do like them for hotter weather. They felt very grippy. They're athletic. I do like them. I'm not going to say best boot ever yet because I don't have enough time in them yet. But as long as they don't leak, which Dad says they don't, he's got the same, we have same pair, same color and everything. I did really like them. So just a tip for everybody, Sierra store or look for deals, because they're not as expensive as some of the boots we were talking about to begin with. If you can catch a pretty good deal, they didn't rub me at all, man. We did a lot of climbing. Knock on yesterday was my watch died on me, but somebody said like 4 or 5 miles, and there was some pretty straight up stuff. You didn't have to be on all fours, but you definitely had to be careful. You were leaning forward.
Was Were those boots fairly light?
Yes, very light. Yeah, I did like that about them.
I I've got like 4 different tabs of different companies look for those Quests pulled up right now because I've been wanting to order them, but then as I'm talking to Zach and stuff about that, I want to order those because I think he's got a pair, but he don't got them. He's got them at home in Colorado, and it's funny is I got most of my boots up here, and he's like, "Well, you only got like 8 different pairs of boots downstairs. So why do you need those?" I was like, "Man,
It's
they all got their purpose. I the ones I've got, I hunted in them last year, and they're the shorter ones. They're 5 or 6 inches maybe, and they worked well. But I got a little bit of trash and limbs and stuff that would get in there every once in a while. I wasn't wearing gaiters, so I was thinking I wanted to buy the taller set. So
I
I'll
couldn't
probably
pass up the
order a
deal.
pair before too long.
Yeah, I couldn't pass it up for $89. Then also Hoyt got me a new hat. I don't know if you can see it, little leather patch there. So got to
Yeah,
show that off free.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
right on, man. Well, it's good to kind of do like a little refresher catch up. I mean, that's all I got. Tack training. I got a big race coming up. I don't want to say too many details. Trail
When are
cameras,
you doing
prepping
that?
for season. It's next weekend. So we'll talk about that. Do you got anything else? I know you're doing your bow.
Yeah, I was just thinking about something in which some most people know a lot of this stuff, but I got some guys that are listening to the podcast that they hunt and they kill animals, and but yet they're not like us. They haven't listened to a ton of podcasts or read a bunch, so they're just
Mhm.
kind of winging it from what they know, and you get to talk to them and find out how different they hunt than you. But just thinking about it with scouting and stuff is something I do it with Onyx, and I do it just out while I'm hunting. A tip that something I would say that is a pretty good tip is that I use a lot of historic information when it comes to whitetail. Like Onyx, I hate even saying this, which most people know it, but I look at a lot of the historic trails when you're hunting river bottoms where you can see cattails and weeds and stuff like that that's grown up. If you're looking at from above, is you can see all these old trails. And a lot of it, you're
Mhm.
like, oh, it's a cattle trail. You start looking through there close enough, you'll find where all these trails, you can find those pinch points out in the middle of an open field for there's some kind of depth that pulls all those deer to cross in that certain area. This is something I do a lot, you know, zoomed in fairly well on Onyx, but looking from above to find those trails. And I always think about it on public ground. You run into a lot of old tree stands. A lot of times you're like, why is that tree stand there? It doesn't make sense. These old timers knew how to hunt too, man. I
Exactly.
always look around when I see an real old tree stand. I'm like, why were they hunting here? Things
Mhm.
could change, but deer use a lot of the same stuff every year. And I mean, I know I could go back to places that I hunted as a kid, and if there was deer around, they'd be on those same trails of coming by the same old trees that we were in, you know?
It's generational, old logging trails. You can see that a lot of times you'll find scrape lines as long as they haven't been, overgrown. We've got a property. Dad killed a good deer on an old logging road. Another tip, and I did this for even out west, is don't just use Onyx. Use Google Earth too, because you
Yep.
can kind of
Yep.
get
Yep.
some real time imagery without having to travel on Google Earth. Like Onyx it does a good job, but man, Google Earth can really show some fine detail. I don't know if you've seen some of those videos, but I mean, you can go out in the
If
middle
you,
of the
if,
ocean sometimes and you just like do that 360 view.
yeah, if you're around, like some companies will have like a paid programming for Google Earth, and man, you can really zoom in,
Yeah.
and zero in on that stuff. Because, I mean, that's just, I'm sure a lot of people know that, but historic information and where something I do when I hunt public, if I bump a whitetail, I look where that deer ran off to. Especially if that deer's in a field and he runs back in the woods, guess what? There's probably a really good chance that's where he came out. I mean,
Yep.
that is a huge tip that I do when I'm scouting new places, is if I will purposely walk an area, and if I'm bumping deer, I'm paying attention to the direction they left that place, especially if it was just a sound, bumped them from sound and not wind. Wind can change the direction that they're going.
Yeah.
They're going to get out of the area that the wind is coming from. They want to avoid getting closer to you, obviously. But when you're just bumping a deer that's never smelled you, just heard something walking, I pay a lot of attention to how they leave. Or just driving up and down the road, a deer leaves the field. That's where he feels safe going in and out a lot of times of that field, and that can be exactly where he's entering that point.
And it's their bedding area, usually. Usually when you jump them like that, that's probably their bedding area midday, depending on when and where you're scouting, how. That's probably their bedding area. And you
Yeah,
jump a big
it's
buck by sound, so.
scouting out here is tough, man, because there's we don't have acorns and just we don't have nuts out here. That all this is just complete browse that these deer are on. So they bed all over the place. All this country's got big tall grass and river bottom constantly. So it's really hard to pinpoint. You can pinpoint a section of the place that's going to be bedding, but it's hard to narrow in where they're going to be because these deer travel a different trail every day. They travel differently, especially on the public ground. They travel differently based on the wind. You can really see how they work through an area on the wind after hunting it for years. They're going to come out, based on wind directions going one direction, they're going to come out in the field 400 yards that day. And if the wind's opposite, they're going to be 400 yards down on the other side of the field where they're coming out. And especially public ground, because people are in there a lot and they know how to work around it. So it's very interesting to see that when you've watched the same spot enough.
You talking
But
about the wind, we get a lot of southwest, a lot of west wind. So, try to have your main access be with that wind. If you, like, we had a farm and to hunt this deer I was wanting to shoot, like, I needed an east wind. And for one, I don't like an east wind. Regardless, they say east wind not fit, what wind from the east not fit for man nor beast is like the old saying.
yeah,
But, keep that in mind when you put a tree stand up, you put all that work in, make sure you have a wind that's going to, allow you to hunt that more repetitively.
yeah, that spot I was referring to earlier that I've killed three deer out of the same tree. What was so special about that? And I mean, I stumbled across this spot, but it didn't matter which way the wind was blowing. When I climbed in a tree down there, it was just like I picked the exact spot where I was close enough to the river that I was getting wind currents off of the river system that like I could go down there and that wind could be directly out of the west. And when I sat in that stand, the wind was always coming out of the east there. No
Hmm.
matter what the wind was doing, unless it was just a crazy fast, heavy 20-mile-an-hour wind, it would still do it. But I hardly ever got smelt down there, and I didn't do it for years, but I finally figured it out. Like, man, every time I'm sitting in the stand and I let milkweed float, it's going right back out towards this field. And you realize right off the bat that this is always out of the east here. So I started hunting it with any direction, but you couldn't do it 100 yards down to the south or 100 yards to the north because the currents weren't the same. But it was just a special spot where the wind was just like always blowing out of the east. And that was like the best for, because the deer were coming from the east on this spot and heading west. So just unique stuff you stumble across that was, a major pattern and awesome. Well, I mean, we called it the killing tree. Killed 6, 7 deer out of the same tree in like 3 years.
Yeah.
So
No, yeah,
it was a
right
pretty
on,
special
man.
spot.
That's a
And
good tip.
crops changed that too. Not only like EHD, but just the main crop that was there for who knows how long. I mean, before I ever was up here hunting, they eliminated this crop, and it was the sugar beets. And every farm in that area quit planting sugar beets all in the same year. So now it was switched from sugar beets to corn and soybeans, and it changed deer routes where they live. The other thing I thought was like with EHD hitting, something I figured out is you think about that as a doe has her 2 fawns, and she was on that pattern before EHD and the certain crops were there. She came out of the woods the same way. She would change for the wind, but she came out of the same area bedding, went to feed that time of year, changed all year long, but say there in August, she's feeding, doing the same thing. Well, you kill 85-90% of your deer, all of a sudden that mom's not there to teach the fawns, and the fawns, if they were only experienced 1 year, it completely changed how the deer moved through the system because you lost that knowledge. So deer were feeding off of, there was a few that would have passed on the genetics of how they move through that wood system there, but I seen it change, man. There's just all of a sudden there's no deer coming through there. They're still in this area, but they've moved on how they move through the terrain. And I think a lot of that is genetics and what they're being taught by their mom when they were
Yeah.
born.
Predators
You
can do the
lost
same thing. I've seen
lost a
turkeys
lot of history.
not
Yeah.
gobbling as much now with bobcats moving in the area. So yeah, it just seems like you have to. It's a revolving door, but that's a good point. With you getting hit as hard as that tree may never be the same again.
Oh yeah. I mean, like what you just said happens in Wyoming and all the western states. If an area doesn't have wolf and grizzly and you move in and the elk find out they're getting eaten all the time, they're making sound, they quit
Mhm.
bugling.
Yep.
But as it progressed and they learned to live with the wolves, then all of a sudden you'll start hearing bugles again. The elk they learn how to survive, with the wolves. They'll still bugle, but if they hear a wolf or have an encounter, they're going to shut up and probably going to move, several canyons over.
Yeah, man. Well, what else?
I think that's about it. I was glad you're able to get on here a little earlier. I'll probably try to jump back out again tonight and get some eyes on deer. Mosquitoes were real bad last night, but it was cloud cover, and I'm pretty sure I laid eyes on a shooter for public ground. I don't know exactly how big, but 130, 140 deer maybe. But in velvet, they all look giant, man.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
there was a one buck who popped back out that I think was the smaller buck with these two, and he looked like a 110, 115, 8, and it was like when you first looked at him, it's like, oh man, that's a decent deer, and then study him, and it's like, yeah, he's not that big.
oh yeah. When we first started this on my phone, I had it on ring, and that property owner called me back. So I may go scout Kentucky tonight and put a camera out. I think is what I'm gonna do. So I guess everybody stay tuned. Next week, um, possibly talking about my race. Depends on when we drop this off. Um, gonna be doing our either salute pursuit or have a guest on here soon. So like always, send anything in with any questions, gear reviews, anything like that. been making some contacts. Danny, you've got a lot out west. We're going to start trying to do a guest probably every other one if we can. It's hard to get people together. We've got season coming up. We're going to have a lot going on ourselves, but we're going to sprinkle in some guests every couple episodes is what I envision, and try to get some footage and maybe some tips and tricks on YouTube of some stuff. So that's all I got. Danny, you got anything?
Just remember to check out the website, and you guys want to support us, get some hats. The other thing too is if you're in Eli's area and you want a hat, hit him up. We can save a little bit of shipping costs if that's something holding people up from buying a hat, because I know it's not cheap to get that stuff sent everywhere. But same way here, if you guys are in the North Dakota or Wyoming area, you could always hit me up. I usually got them fairly close to me, and we can get you a hat.
Absolutely. Yep. Hit us up. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.